With deep pleasure, I would like to invite Milda Varnauskaite, who is an international storyteller, storytelling coach, curator, and producer based in Vilnius, Lithuania. Her style fuses stories from the Baltic region with life experiences and insights, often through the lens of comedy. She performs regularly across Lithuania and internationally. Some key events were at the Oral Festival in Netherlands, Amsterdam International Storytelling Festival, MIX UP Festival in Paris, and Forteller Festivalon in Oslo. A graduate from Mirzab Storytelling School 2017, she studied storytelling at the Oslo Metropolitan University 2020 and Berlin Summer University of the Arts 2020. She currently teaches storytelling at Vilnius University and works as a storytelling coach at the National Museum of Lithuania. And she's also the founder of the Baltic Storytelling Center. Now, I would like to invite Banani Das Hazarika ma'am, the festival coordinator, to kindly felicitate her. Milda believes in spontaneous storytelling and she volunteered to have a very interactive session.
A friend of mine invited me to try traditional Lithuanian smoke sauna. She gathered 12 of us, all women in our 30s, on this Sunday afternoon at the end of the August. We jumped in our cars from Vilnius. We drove 1 hour to that place, and the last kilometers we were through the forest. And once we finally reached the place, we were welcomed by this huge wooden gate with a sculpture of a rooster on top of it. The gate opened and we went inside and we saw this tiny little pond at the bottom of the hill, and then on top of the hill there was a smaller house, a little bit darker, and we immediately understood that must be the smoke house. And then there was a longer, lighter wooden house, and we understood this is where our guide lives. We parked our cars, we grabbed all our bags, we went to the place, and we were greeted by our sauna guide. You see, the tradition of smoke sauna is already lost in Lithuania. So if you want to try the traditional smoke sauna, meaning that the heat is kept by the smoke, not by the steam, by the smoke that comes out of the burning the wood. You have to have a person that leads you through the whole procedure. So here he was, a tall man wearing long, loose linen trousers, long linen shirt. We really love our linen in Lithuania. He had this long gray hair and a long gray beard and the hair. He just saw us, turned around, and went into one of the houses. He showed us there. He said we can change into our bath suits. And we can also have our food over there, and we will, once we get ready, we will go into the sauna, and we will go 6 times. And after third time, we will be allowed to go and jump in the pond. So everything is clear. We were very excited. We got our food on the table, and there I saw the fresh curd cheese with the fresh honey. And then someone also brought a fried bread with cheese. We love it. And then there was also someone brought gira. And gira is this bread drink that we have. So everything was set, we were ready, and we started going into the sauna. So once I opened the door, the smoke got into my eyes, into my nostrils, and of course I was almost crying. I couldn't see anything. There was only smoke, such a dark place. There was only a little window for the light and else. So all of us, 12, just got into that place, and we sat on lakta, which is like stairs, but very long ones. We sat there, and then our guide came in wearing the linen clothes, especially for the sauna. He took a copper bowl, he poured some salt, and he started. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Then he took a little cup of copper, put some water, went around and told us to touch it and give some blessings. And that's what we did. And then we thanked for the stones that we are keeping the heat as well for the sauna. And the whole ritual started. He was telling what to do and also sharing some stories. So we went in one time, and then we came out, we walked a little bit, then we came again the second time, and then the third time. He looked at us, sitting there, and he said, "Girls, you look like Lomas." Lomas? You, of course, don't know what is Lomas, right? You know? Someone knows what is Lomas? So Lomas are these mythological creatures in Lithuanian folklore, and they live very close to people, and they are responsible for the social justice. And he started telling us, if parents are not taking a good care of their children, Lomas kidnap them and raise them themselves. And also, Lomas are really hard working. If you invite Lome to work in your house, they will do everything and they will ask even for more. For example, if Lome starts weaving and this thread is finished, she grabs your gut and weaves it as well. And then he said, if the men are abusing or not taking a good care of the women in their life, daughters, sisters, mothers, Lomas find them in the dark corners and they tickle them to death with their naked breasts. So be aware when you go into Lithuania. So we listened to all this information. Interesting, right? For you as well, a little bit of a folklore. But it was really getting so hot. We couldn't wait to be let out through the door. And the moment he just opened, all of us rushed out to the little bridge and the pond, and we jumped in the water. A little bit chilly, but still nice, refreshing water. We swam a little, and then we went on the bridge, and we were just sitting there chatting. We haven't seen each other for a long time, all friends from different walks of lives. And you know how it happens. You talk, and suddenly it goes quiet. And in that silence, we heard someone was still talking. And we looked at another side of the pond. There were 3 women washing their clothes, just taking it, and on the stone there were 2 older ones and the one younger, and the two older ones, they were really discussing about something very enthusiastically and passionate, but we couldn't hear what exactly. And you know how it is, the sound travels very well close to the water, so we leaned closer to the pond so we could listen what they are talking about. And we heard one of the oldest ones. She said, when I get married, I will marry only the pretty man, the handsome. What you will do with the pretty one? The second one answered, if when I marry, I will marry only the rich one. And so we went just on pretty, the handsome, or the rich one. The handsome or the rich one. And the third one, she was younger, she didn't really, she didn't want to get involved in this. But they noticed that she's not interested in their conversation, and they started poking her. So, you, rich one on the handsome one, who you would choose? She doesn't want to answer really, but they carry on just pushing her, and finally she says, if I ever get married, I will marry the one who loves me and the one who I love. You, so poor. You will marry the one who loves you. If the Duke of these lands asked you to marry him, you would be the first one to run. And the girl knew that the Duke of these lands, he's just ugly man, but not from outside, from the inside. He was still okay when his wife was alive, but when he got widower, he became horrible to everyone around. It was nothing for him to leave a person from the village on the middle of the lake when it was frozen in the winter just for the person to freeze. So of course, when the girl heard this, she said, I would never marry this man. I don't know how it's in your life, but in my life, every time I'm saying something about another person, this person is behind. And it's exactly what happened. For some reason, Duke decided in the morning to go for a walk. He took his servant. Of course, he was walking in the meadows. And then he decided to go in the forest. And like us, he heard this woman talking and he got curious. So he came closer and he started listening and he heard the girl say, I will never marry this ugly man. Oh. Too poor to be so proud, he thought to himself, and told to his servant, fetch her and bring her tomorrow morning to my manor. And then he came back to his manor and he told to all of his maids to collect everything what his late wife had, all the jewelry, all the dresses, and just put it on in the first hall when you enter the manor. And that's what was done. The morning comes. The girl goes through the park. She sees all these peacocks, swans, everything beautifully cut. She has never seen this garden. She comes closer to the manor. The door is closed. She opens it, comes inside. And she sees the pearls, rubies, gold, everything put there together. Dresses, beautiful dresses. She wants to try one of them and thinks if she just had this dress, she could feed her family for 3 years at least. And while she's just trying one of these dresses, Duke comes into the room. I see you like it. You can have it, all of it, if you marry me. The girl looks at everything, looks at him, not so ugly anymore. She thinks, and what do you think she chose? Is she gonna marry him? Who thinks that she's gonna marry him? Please raise your hand. Okay. Who thinks that she's not gonna marry him? Okay, there is. Good, very good. Yes. She looked again at him. There's some romance here. And she said, "Thank you, sir. Thank you for this offer. I'm really honored. But I will marry only the one who loves me and whom I love." And then, of course, the Duke said, "Okay, that's okay, fine, you can go, right?" Yeah, and he just released her, "Okay." No? This is what happens, huh? No. He was like, "No, no, 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 no. You are not saying no to me. I want to see tomorrow 3 woven belts. One as shiny as the stars, the second one as shiny as the moon, and the third one as shiny as the sun. And if not, the girl left the manor, went through the park, and she doesn't even remember where she was going. She crossed the meadows. She went into the forest. She was walking in the forest, not really thinking anything, just, okay, I know how to weave, but where to find these threads that would be shining as the moon and as shiny as the star? And she goes like this, and finally she reaches a pond, and she sits down next to the pond, and then the dark starts coming down. And she gets so sad that she doesn't know what to do, that she starts crying. And she cries into the water. She cries and cries and cries until she suddenly feels that the air has changed. And she felt like someone is around. And once she turned back into the water, she saw 3 women standing in front of her. One of them had this long hair, looking a little full of leaves and looking almost like a grass of the river. And another one, she had this blue eyes, and the third one had a half of the cheek was out. You could see her teeth. But then she looked this side. She was so beautiful. She could show herself in any way she wanted. And the girl, just from the appearance, she recognized them. It was what? It was Lomis. That she heard the woman in the sauna told her that if woman gets in trouble, it's Lomis who comes and help them. And so the girl told everything to Lome, what happened. And Lome very carefully made a little bed for her just next to the tree. And they sang a lullaby. Chucha, lula, mikvaikelį šilko patavas. Chucha, lula. She fell asleep. The morning came. She opened her eyes, and just in front of her, on a branch of the tree, there was what? 3 bells, yes. One as shiny as what? The stars. The second one as shiny as moon, and the third one as shiny as sun. She grabbed those bells and she ran to the manor. She saw the Duke. Ha! And the Duke, of course, said to her, "Fine, everything very good. You are free." No. He is like one of these people, and I'm sure you met in your life, that is never enough. Whatever you do is never enough, and you need more and more. Please keep it the light on the people. More and more and more and more. So he said, "Oh, this is very easy. This is such an easy task. Nothing. But tomorrow, I want you to bring me the golden carriage with 4 black horses. And when I ride on that carriage, in the front of me, I want to see the light day, and behind me, the dark night. And I want to have it in a nutshell." The girl left the manor. She was walking, but she was walking directly to the pond, not really thinking for much. She arrived to the pond, and she started. Nothing. Low mess know when you lie. And she just carried on like this, like this. Then finally, when it was already dark, she got so stressed that she cried for real. And of course, Lomas came, but this time angry. "Stop, woman, whining." They just pushed her on that bed. She lay down, and she was not able to fall asleep, but she really tried hard, and she finally fell asleep. And in the morning, when she woke up, there is no carriage, no horses, nothing. And she walking around these trees, everything looking maybe it's a very small carriage. Then she feels there is something in her pocket. She takes it out, and she feels there is a nut. She opens, and then really like in a magical movie, just suddenly appears the carriage and 4 horses, and she jumps into it, and she drives to the manor, and she's so proud of herself. But again, the Duke tells her, "Oh, this is just a simple witchcraft. All of you women in the village know how to do it. It's nothing. Tomorrow, bring me the mirror. And then I am looking at that mirror. I want to see the past when I want it, and the future when I choose to." And in that moment, our sauna guide came. You still remember, right? We are still in the sauna, right? So he came while we were sitting at the bridge. And he said, "Girls, I have a little story for you. A couple of years ago, I woke up from this strange noise in the middle of the night, and there was a moon shining bright, and I just couldn't understand what's happening. And I really heard this noise, and I was walking around my house, and I saw 3 women with my window close to the pond, just pouring the water on that window. They took it with the whole frame and telling some magical words." What they made? Huh? I'm checking if you are listening. What they made, those 3 women? Who knows? They made a mirror. And with that mirror, the girl, she went to the Duke. She presented it to him. He took it, and he started looking into his past. And he saw this little boy Was like having lunch with his parents, sitting in the same manner. Such a sweet boy. When? When did it happen he became so horrible? And then he decided to look into the future, thinking, maybe I will be the Grand Duke of all the lands. Maybe I will be a king once. But what he saw was not what he expected. He just smashed this mirror on the ground, looked at the girl, and said, I don't want to see you ever again. And she didn't need to hear this 3 times, She immediately understood she has to leave immediately. And that's what she did. And later, our sauna guide, you know, he told us that this girl, she was living in the nearby villages and the people told the story of her. And then we carried on, and everyone, the other people we are telling the story. Nobody knows if she married or if she didn't marry. Who cares? The most important thing is that you also take the story and tell it her story to others. Thank you.
You have a microphone, someone?
We can use maybe.
A mic? No, for them.
Okay, excellent job. It was really engaging here. I could travel in this story like it's supposed to be, but I have a curiosity. Do you collect those stories? Do you make them up? Do you mix them? When you travel and learn new stories, do you also mix with the stories that you know already? How is this process?
So how do I work with stories, right? Um, I try to make them my own. And some of them I don't mix any of personal, like directly, nothing of my personal story, just more underneath, maybe just to bring the life to the characters. Um, and and with the other ones, if there is an inspiration suddenly and I see that it can help for the story to shine and become relevant, interesting, something that would people think, oh, I also want to tell that story. Then I do it.
Hi,
Hi.
it's beautiful, very interesting story. I just wanted to know that in Lithuania, do you have a whole lot of folklore like we have Panchatantra and all? And do you take inspiration from them, or is it purely your own imagination that you just
This
told
was a
us?
folk tale. Was
Folk
the
tale.
my interpretation of a real folk tale of a free washerwoman
Okay,
and Lomas.
okay, so
Yes, so I really believe that all those folk tales, they should be like a part of a part of our life. I really feel it like that. All these creatures, mythology, everything is still around. You just have to see it. And in the way I'm telling it, I want people also see it. I want them to feel this magic that, oh, maybe there is a Caucasus. Maybe the Lome can come, right? When the mist starts. And there's a lot of that also in Lithuanian folklore, and we don't have an epic story, but we have a big chest of magical fairy tales and legends, and yeah.
Ready? Question? Over here.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the Lome. So, do you know of any very similar creatures in other countries around it, or are they sort of a unique Lithuanian thing?
From what I read and did the research, uh, they are quite unique. Yes, we have some similarities with fairies, but not they are not exactly like that. And they can really be like really evil, really bad, but they can also be very helpful.
Thank you.
Um, there was a little dark side in the story. Are all Lithuanian folklores, do they border on, the dark episodes? Because many of our Naga folklores are very dark, but it always underlines a message, you know. So I did find some similarity with the way you narrated that incident when the threat was given that if you weave and if you don't do, we'll weave your guts along with it. So we do have a similar story like that.
I'm sure, and I actually really love dark tales.
Yeah, most of our folklore is
Yes,
dark.
exactly. And then to tell them in a light way. So it has this contrast.
Yeah, and I like the way you interpreted that whole thing, and that lightness to the dark side of the story was really, emphasized. So I think, older folks used to talk, would tell us stories with the fear of God, you know. And so the experience of folklores were also always a little scary, perhaps. But I like the way you did it. I mean, it made it very nice and light and perhaps humorous too.
I cannot find. Thank you so much.
Since I have the microphone, I'll ask. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yes, yeah. So in India, we have this idea of grandparents and elders who basically, whenever I think of storytelling, I often think of my grandmother, who would often tell stories when I was a young boy. So is it this very same in Lithuania? This idea of intergenerational storytelling, and do you think it's important in preserving or taking this idea of storytelling forward? Is it the same in Lithuania?
I think intergenerational storytelling is really very important. And how it is in Lithuania, um, if I dare to say, and please correct me, there is a quite a big, I would say, culture of silence as well. It comes and is, I would say, um, a lot of children and adults, they grew up in not hearing so many stories. And it comes from both reasons. Culturally, we are still a Nordic country and not so communicative. And the second is really a history, experiencing the occupation, Soviet occupation, and then being punished sometimes for not saying the right thing, for saying too much, and sometimes when I work with people, I really see that fear, still that fear in the eyes of telling things very openly. And that's why I work a lot with personal stories as well, because there's so many stories not told about what happened: the Second World War, the Holocaust, the deportations to Siberia. There's so much trauma and so many stories. So I would say there's still not enough. And when it comes to my family, I was quite lucky. I grew up in a family where a lot of stories shared, though personal stories. Both of my parents kept always at the dinner table or the Christmas, share the stories of their childhood, of their teenage years. And I think I grew up feeling like that personal stories needs to be shared.
Very interesting thread.
Does anyone have a question related to what she just said? Or shall we go on to some other? Okay, over here, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm actually in awe of the oratory skills that you have. Um, Human beings are storytellers by nature. I have a very simple yet basic question. How do you manage to do that? Do you actually learn it by heart, or do you visualize the entire concept? You know it so well that you come and put it across in a very visual form. It's at the back of your mind, a very visual form, and then you're explaining it. Or is it practice? How do you do it so well? Because storytelling at the end of the day is very important, and since you do it so well, we really love to hear what and how do you do it.
I really thank you so much for the
If
question.
I may just add, yesterday I was just going through your website and something fascinating just struck me. You mentioned that us human beings, we are neurobiologically, yes, wired to tell stories. Maybe you can just picking up from where you left. If you can just elaborate on that, why do you think so? Yeah.
Okay, so how do I do it? So I believe that storytelling is a practice, and you really the story goes better the more you tell it. And I've been telling this particular tale that I just told you. I think 8 years. I'm sure it's not a lot for more experienced storytellers, but this is how it gets into your bones. You imagine it, and also how I work. I also just pour my own emotions, my life into the story, so it becomes mine, and I can tell it as my own story. This happened to me. All this experience that the girl went through, I also went through. And I want the audience to feel it.
Good. Okay.
Oh, neurobiologically wired. It's a fact. There is a research done at that really even our bodies. For me, storytelling is a physical experience. Once we hear the story, we are like we get like this injection of happiness hormones in our blood. We become more open to each other, to hear the experience, to learn from it. This is how we are wired to do it, to keep the tradition, values, history through the stories. This is what we've been doing from the beginning of our time, and it is in our DNA.
Interesting. Well, okay, one more here. Ladies first. Okay. Please wait for the. Give it to me.
Thank you very much, Milda. I really felt I was at the pond and in the sauna, because I have both the pond and the sauna in my country house. My question would be, how would you think our, how shall I put it, natural nature cycles affect our way of storytelling, and especially the duration of the day and night? Because, far in the north, we have a period of a year where it's light all through, starting from 3 a.m. to almost 11 p.m. And even midnight. Basically, it gives you 3 hours of dark only. And then you have another half a year where it gets dark at 4, and the sun sets at 10 a.m. probably at the best. Which, I mean, now we have electricity, but in the times there was no electricity. You would imagine what the family would do in that time, huddling around probably one single source of warmth and doing what?
Reading.
So, so when you talk about the light period of time, I visualize lomas immediately, because that's where we see them. That's where they come. That's why they spread their hair. That's why they tempt you to go and swim in the lake. But the dark, and does it affect somehow how the Europeans from the north shape or tell their stories? being the only type of entertainment for that certain period of time.
Thank you. From what I read and researched, the folklorists, because I'm an artist, so I'm not like really objective. I'm sorry, but what I read, that stories being shared and told during the long evenings in the winter times while weaving, preparing the fabrics for the spring and summer when there is not so many work outside to do. So the main storytelling was happening definitely in the when all the agricultural tasks are finished, everything is done, and now it's the winter to survive. And some of the magical fairy tales, they would be told in a few evenings, for example. Then the storyteller starts, and it's usually a woman who is a bearer of the tradition. So they start, for example, in one evening, and then we carry on maybe a second evening. And all, if you look at the written stories in the archive, the longest ones are the magical ones.
Do we have time for another question, Shiela? How are we doing on time? Okay, one more.
Have you been inspired by any stories from India? And do you think they have universal applicability across countries? And have you tried to digitize your stories?
I'm so sorry, I was a little bit distracted. Could you please repeat the beginning of this of the question?
Have you been inspired by stories from India? And do you think they have universal application across countries?
I wasn't yet inspired by Indian stories, but I am definitely in a moment because of some of the things I was visiting here. It's my already a third, fourth day in India. I've never been here before, and I have some of the things that I'm hearing, and I'm already thinking about Durga, the Durga story. I was really fascinated by it, what I heard, and I read a little bit, and I thought, maybe I could tell a story invited in my repertoire as well. And if the stories have general application, I think sometimes you need a medium to help you to get in the culture. I don't think you can also tell a story if you haven't maybe seen the landscape, if you don't know the language, the culture. You need, or at least do your research. You cannot just maybe just pick them as well. You need to understand how it works, because some things are not opening to you easily. I've invested most of my career, which is not long, little 10 years, in the understanding the folklore and opening the folklore, Lithuanian folklore.
Okay. Well, let's save this thread for tomorrow, because we will be having Milda again discussing different traditions of storytelling. And of course, India being a mother culture in so many ways, I think it's just a matter of looking for it to see where the connections might lie. And if not, next time when we do the listener and we invite you back again, then perhaps by that time you will have your Durga story in place. Okay, so without further ado, as they say, thank you so much, Milda. Thank you.